Why calm men always win. Imagine walking into a room where 10 men are arguing. One is speaking louder than everyone else. Another interrupts every sentence. Someone slams a hand against the table. Another desperately tries to prove he's right. The room is full of words, full of emotion, full of noise. Then, the door opens. A man walks in. He doesn't rush. He doesn't announce himself. He doesn't demand attention. He simply sits down and says nothing. Something strange begins to happen. One by one, the voices become quieter. People begin looking in his direction, not because he asked them to, because calm has a strange effect on the human mind. The brain interprets emotional control as strength. It interprets certainty as competence, and it naturally follows those who appear difficult to shake. The silent strategist learned this lesson long before he ever read a psychology book. He noticed something most people never notice. The loudest man in the room is almost never the most powerful one. The most powerful man usually has the least to prove. Think back to the most respected person you've ever met. Maybe it was a grandfather, a military officer, a teacher, a business owner, a coach, or simply someone whose presence changed the atmosphere the moment they entered. Ask yourself something. Was it their volume or their composure that made people listen? Most men spend their entire lives trying to become more convincing. The silent strategist chooses something different. He becomes more difficult to disturb, because once your emotions belong to other people, your life belongs to them too. Every insult becomes a command. Every criticism becomes a trap. Every opinion becomes a chain. Most people never realize this. They think they're defending themselves. In reality, they're allowing strangers to control their emotional state. Imagine carrying a remote control in your pocket. Now imagine handing that remote to every person you meet. One presses the anger button. Another presses insecurity. Another activates jealousy. Someone else triggers fear. By the end of the day, you no longer control yourself. Everyone else does. Sounds absurd, yet millions of people live exactly this way. One negative comment ruins their morning. One rejection destroys their confidence. One betrayal changes their personality. One insult controls their entire week. The silent strategist refuses to hand anyone that remote. Not because he lacks emotion, because he understands something priceless. Whoever controls your emotions controls your decisions. And whoever controls your decisions quietly begins controlling your future. This is why truly powerful men don't react immediately. They observe. While everyone else is speaking, they're collecting information. While everyone else is defending themselves, they're evaluating intentions. While everyone else is trying to win the argument, they're asking a different question. Asterisk. What is this person trying to make me feel? Asterisk, that single question changes everything. Because the moment you stop reacting automatically, you begin seeing people differently. You notice manipulation. You notice insecurity. You notice hidden motives. You notice patterns that emotional people never see. Calm isn't passive. Calm is awareness. And awareness is power. The silent strategist knows that every emotional reaction has a price. Sometimes it's a damaged relationship. Sometimes it's a lost opportunity. Sometimes it's a decision you'll regret for years. That's why he protects his emotional state with the same intensity that others protect their money. Because unlike money, time lost to emotional chaos can never be recovered. Think about your own life. How many opportunities disappeared because you reacted too quickly? How many relationships ended because nobody paused long enough to think? How many nights have you replayed a conversation, wishing you had remained silent? Almost every man has experienced that moment. The moment where one sentence changed everything. Not because it needed to be said, because it couldn't be taken back. The silent strategist understands that words are permanent once released. That's why he lets silence do work that emotion never could. Before we go any further, I want you to think about someone who still has emotional control over you. Maybe they don't even realize it. Or maybe they do. The moment they ignore you, your mood changes. The moment they criticize you, your confidence drops. The moment they approve of you, you feel valuable again. If that's happening, then your peace is no longer yours. It's being rented out to someone else. That realization is uncomfortable, but it's also the beginning of freedom. Years ago, I realized something that completely changed the way I looked at strength. Men don't lose because they're weak. Most lose because nobody ever taught them how psychological control really works. They learn how to make money, how to build muscle, how to speak confidently, but almost nobody teaches them how to protect the one thing every manipulator wants: their emotional state. That's why I created the Dark Mind Protocol, not as another motivational course, not as another collection of quotes, but as a complete framework for building psychological discipline. The kind of discipline that allows a man to stay calm when everyone around him is falling apart. The mindset of the silent strategist. If you've ever felt manipulated by your own emotions, if you've ever looked back at a decision and realized anger made it for you, if you're ready to stop giving other people access to your peace, you'll find the Dark Mind Protocol waiting for you in the pinned comment below. Because today's lesson isn't really about staying calm. It's about becoming the kind of man whose mind can no longer be controlled. The room becomes silent again, not because everyone agrees, because everyone is waiting to see what the calm man will do next. And that is where real power begins. Silence is often misunderstood. People confuse it with weakness. They mistake composure for hesitation. They assume that the man who doesn't immediately react has nothing to say. But psychology tells a completely different story. When two people face conflict, the emotional one is usually fighting two battles at the same time. The first battle is with the person in front of him. The second is with himself. His heartbeat accelerates. His breathing becomes shallow. Stress hormones flood his body. His brain slowly shifts from rational thinking to emotional survival. In that state, he isn't choosing his words. He's escaping his emotions. The silent strategist never enters that battlefield. He understands something most men never realize. The first person to lose emotional control has already surrendered the strongest position. Imagine a poker table in Las Vegas. 8 players sit in complete silence. Nobody knows who has the strongest hand. Nobody knows who's bluffing. Then one player suddenly becomes nervous. He starts talking. He laughs too much. His hands shake. He explains every move he makes. Without showing a single card, he's already revealed more than he intended. Life works exactly the same way. Your emotions reveal information long before your words do. Anger reveals insecurity. Desperation reveals dependence. Jealousy reveals fear. The need to be understood often reveals the fear of being rejected. The silent strategist watches all of this without rushing to respond. Because calm people collect information while emotional people leak it. Think about every negotiation you've ever seen. The person who speaks first usually gives away the most. The person who becomes uncomfortable with silence usually pays the highest price. That's why experienced negotiators intentionally pause. Not to manipulate, to observe. Silence creates space. And inside that space, people reveal themselves. Have you ever noticed how uncomfortable silence makes some people? You're sitting across from someone. The conversation ends. Neither of you speaks. 3 seconds pass. 5, 7. Then suddenly, the other person starts filling the silence. They explain. They justify. They overshare. They reveal details nobody even asked for. Why? Because silence creates pressure, and pressure exposes character. The silent strategist doesn't fear silence. He uses it as information. Because the man who cannot tolerate silence usually cannot tolerate himself. Imagine walking through a forest at sunrise. The experienced hunter doesn't run. He doesn't shout. He doesn't scare every animal away. He becomes still. He listens. The forest begins speaking to him. The birds, the wind, the movement between the trees. Everything that seemed invisible becomes obvious. Human behavior works exactly the same way. Most people enter conversations trying to be heard. The silent strategist enters conversations trying to see, to notice, to understand, to recognize patterns hidden beneath words. Because people rarely reveal themselves through what they say. They reveal themselves through what they cannot hide. A forced smile, an interrupted sentence, a glance toward the exit, a clenched jaw, a trembling hand, an unnecessary explanation. The emotional man hears words. The calm man reads behavior, and behavior almost never lies. There's another reason calm men command respect. They appear difficult to influence. Think about two ships crossing the same ocean. The first is small. Every wave pushes it off course. Every gust of wind changes its direction. The second is enormous. The waves still hit it. The storm is just as powerful, but it barely changes course. Which ship inspires confidence? The larger one, not because it avoids storms, because it remains stable inside them. People instinctively respond the same way. When they see someone who remains emotionally steady under pressure, their brain unconsciously interprets that person as capable, reliable, safe, strong. This is why calm leaders naturally emerge during crises. When everyone else panics, people begin searching for the person whose emotions remain under control. Not because that person knows every answer, because stability itself creates hope. The silent strategist understands that your emotional state is contagious. Walk into a room angry, you'll spread tension. Walk into a room fearful, you'll spread uncertainty. Walk into a room calm, you'll often lower everyone else's emotional temperature. That's leadership, not through authority, through regulation. At some point in life, every man discovers that the world is full of people trying to borrow his emotions. Someone is anger, someone is attention, someone is fear, someone is approval. They provoke, they criticize, they insult, not because they hate him, because emotional people need emotional reactions to feel powerful. The moment you react exactly as expected, you've stepped onto their battlefield. The silent strategist never accepts that invitation, not because he's passive, because he chooses the battlefield. And that's a completely different kind of strength. If you've spent years feeling like every criticism shakes your confidence, if you've allowed one person's opinion to ruin an entire day, if you've walked away from conversations wishing you had stayed calm, then you're beginning to see why emotional discipline changes everything. That realization became the foundation of the Dark Mind Protocol. Not because staying calm is impressive, but because a man who controls his emotions becomes extraordinarily difficult to manipulate. Inside the Dark Mind Protocol, you'll learn practical psychological frameworks to strengthen emotional control, recognize manipulation before it takes hold, and develop the quiet confidence of the silent strategist. If that's the man you're determined to become, you'll find a complete framework waiting for you in the pinned comment below. Now, let's go even deeper, because staying calm isn't only about controlling your emotions. It's about understanding why calm people naturally become the ones others follow. There's a reason history remembers calm men long after loud men are forgotten. Think about the greatest military commanders, the greatest negotiators, the greatest leaders. When chaos surrounded them, did they become more emotional or more composed? Imagine standing in the middle of a battlefield. Smoke covers the horizon. Men are shouting. Orders collide. Confusion spreads faster than the enemy. Now imagine the commander. He isn't screaming. He isn't panicking. He isn't reacting to every unexpected event. He is observing, calculating, adjusting. While everyone else is losing clarity, he is gaining it. The silent strategist understands that calm is not the absence of pressure. It is mastery inside pressure. That is why calm men almost always make better decisions. Because decisions made during emotional storms are rarely intelligent. They're survival responses. Modern neuroscience explains something ancient warriors understood without laboratories. When your emotions take control, the logical part of your brain becomes less effective. Your world suddenly becomes smaller. You stop seeing possibilities. You stop seeing strategy. You only see the immediate threat. This is why one angry message can destroy a 10-year relationship. One emotional business decision can destroy a company. One uncontrolled outburst can destroy decades of respect. Not because one moment defines your life, Because one moment can erase years of discipline. The silent strategist never forgets this. He knows that building respect takes years. Destroying it sometimes takes seconds. So before speaking, he asks himself a question. Will tomorrow's version of me be proud of what I'm about to say? If the answer is uncertain, he waits. Because patience has saved more lives, more careers, more marriages, and more friendships than intelligence ever has. Imagine a blacksmith forging a sword. The metal enters the fire. It glows bright orange. Then something interesting happens. He doesn't keep heating it forever. He removes it, lets it cool, shapes it, returns it to the fire. Again, and again, and again. Strength is never created by constant heat. It is created by learning how to endure the heat without losing form. Human character develops exactly the same way. Pressure is unavoidable. Criticism is unavoidable. Failure is unavoidable. Betrayal is unavoidable. The question has never been, will life test you? The real question is, who will you become while life is testing you? Most men become reactive. The silent strategist becomes refined. Every difficult conversation becomes training. Every betrayal becomes awareness. Every failure becomes information. Every rejection becomes direction. Nothing is wasted. Everything becomes fuel. That is psychological power. There is another reason calm men win. People trust consistency. Imagine flying through severe turbulence. The airplane begins shaking violently. Passengers become nervous. Some begin praying. Others grip their seats. Now imagine entering the cockpit. The pilot is breathing normally, speaking calmly, following procedures. Would his calm affect your own emotions? Of course, because emotional states spread. Confidence spreads. Fear spreads. Panic spreads. Calm spreads. Without realizing it, people are constantly borrowing emotional states from those around them. This is why families often mirror the emotional leader inside the house. Companies mirror the emotional leader inside the office. Teams mirror the emotional leader inside the locker room. The silent strategist understands this invisible influence. He doesn't stay calm only for himself. He stays calm because stability changes environments. One emotionally disciplined man can transform an entire room, not through speeches, through presence. Have you ever noticed what happens during a serious emergency? There's always one person everyone begins looking at. Nobody votes. Nobody announces a leader. It simply happens. Why? Because under pressure, people instinctively follow emotional stability. Not confidence alone, not intelligence alone, stability. That is why calm becomes a competitive advantage. Most people spend years trying to become more persuasive. The silent strategist spends years becoming more stable. Persuasion without stability eventually collapses. Stability naturally creates persuasion. Years ago, I believed confidence meant having the right answers. I believed powerful men always knew exactly what to do. Then life taught me something completely different. The strongest men I've ever met didn't always have answers. They had composure. They weren't impossible to hurt. They were impossible to shake. There's an enormous difference. That realization became one of the foundations of the Dark Mind Protocol. Because real confidence isn't built by repeating affirmations in front of a mirror. It's built by repeatedly proving to yourself that your emotions no longer dictate your behavior. That is psychological discipline. Not pretending nothing affects you. Learning that nothing controls you. If you're tired of living at the mercy of every criticism, every rejection, every opinion, then perhaps what you're looking for isn't motivation. Perhaps you're looking for mastery. That's exactly why the Dark Mind Protocol exists. To help men stop reacting to life and start leading it. If you're ready to build that kind of inner stability, you'll find the complete framework waiting for you in the pinned comment below. Now we're about to arrive at the lesson that ties everything together. Because calm isn't simply a personality trait. It becomes your identity. And once that happens, the world begins responding to you differently. There comes a moment in every man's life when he realizes something uncomfortable. The people who changed his future were never the loudest. They were never the most emotional. They were never the ones constantly demanding attention. They possessed something far more powerful. Presence. Not the kind that fills a room with noise. The kind that fills a room with certainty. The silent strategist understands that calm is not something you perform. It is something you become. And once you become it, people begin treating you differently. Not because you ask them to, because your behavior forces them to. Imagine two mountains standing side by side. The first is covered with loose rocks. Every storm changes its shape. Every season leaves another scar. The second mountain has stood there for thousands of years. The same storms arrive. The same winds blow. The same rain falls. Yet it remains. Life treats men exactly the same way. Some are rebuilt by every opinion they hear. Others remain anchored in something deeper than approval. The silent strategist chooses to become the mountain. Not because life becomes easier, because he refuses to become smaller every time life becomes harder. Think about the people who have hurt you, the ones who underestimated you, the ones who laughed at your ambitions, the ones who doubted your future. Years ago, you probably wanted revenge. You wanted to prove them wrong. You wanted them to see your success. But something changes as you mature. You stop asking, how do I make them regret losing me? And you begin asking, how do I become a man whose peace no longer depends on what they think? That single question changes everything. Because the greatest victory isn't watching your enemies lose. It's realizing they no longer occupy space inside your mind. That is freedom, not emotional numbness. Emotional independence. The kind that cannot be bought, cannot be manipulated, cannot be taken away. Most men spend years trying to control other people. The silent strategist spends those years mastering himself. He knows a timeless truth. You cannot control betrayal, but you can control your response. You cannot control rejection, but you can control your standards. You cannot control criticism, but you can control whether it deserves your attention. And when enough of those choices accumulate, something extraordinary happens. You become difficult to manipulate, difficult to intimidate, difficult to distract. Not because you become colder, because you become clearer. You no longer confuse attention with respect, noise with confidence, or emotion with strength. One day, someone will try to provoke you. They'll expect the old version of you, the one who reacted instantly, the one who argued, the one who explained, the one who needed to win every conversation. Instead, they'll meet silence, a calm expression, a man who no longer feels the need to prove anything. And in that moment, they'll realize something before you even say a word. You are no longer someone they can control. That is the quiet power of emotional discipline. That is the mindset of the silent strategist. Before you leave, I want you to remember one sentence. Power is not measured by how many people you can control. Power is measured by how few people can control you. If today's video challenged the way you see yourself, don't let it become another moment of inspiration that disappears tomorrow morning. Real transformation doesn't happen because you watched one video. It happens when you build a new way of thinking, a new identity, a new standard. That's exactly why I created the Dark Mind Protocol. Not to motivate you for a day, but to help you build the psychological discipline of the silent strategist. Inside, you'll learn the complete framework behind emotional control, strategic thinking, unshakable confidence, and the habits that make a man impossible to manipulate, ignore, or replace. If you're ready to stop reacting, stop chasing, stop seeking validation, and finally become the man your future requires, you'll find the Dark Mind Protocol waiting for you in the first pinned comment. The next move is yours. 1 year from now, most people who watch this video will remember a few quotes, a few stories, a few ideas. Then they'll go back to living exactly as they always have. A small percentage will make a different decision. They'll protect their peace, guard their attention, control their emotions, build quietly, act consistently, and one day, people will call them lucky. They'll never see the thousands of invisible choices that created that life. Because real power has never been loud. It has never demanded recognition. It has never needed permission. It is built in silence, protected by discipline, and revealed only through results. The world will always remember the loudest voices, but history is written by the calmest minds. I'll see you in the next episode of Dark Mind Protocol.